move down one, and there's an open seat here, so fine. Yes, ma'am.
Thank you for commissioners for hearing me out. My name is Yvonne Cook Riley. I live in West Asheville. I am a person who is gender variant, and I am trying to show you that you have gender variant employees of your county. I do my job proudly, I do it professionally, and I have great joy in being service to this county. The last thing that I do not want to see is smoke and mirrors around the idea that I am an employee of this county and should be in that protected class as a gender variant. We will not discriminate just because you do not want to put sexual orientation or gender expression in an ordinance. Please consider the language that is seen all over the world when people bring this up on their computer and consider moving to Buncombe County, and when they see that the county itself has those words in the personnel department instead of smoke and mirrors, putting sexual orientation, which she used right here on this podium a couple minutes ago, and gender expression in the ordinance. It costs you nothing but a couple words. Please consider that amendment. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Riley. Yes, ma'am.
My name is Amy Huntsman. I live in the Oakley neighborhood of Asheville. I've been an employee of the county for going on close to 7 years now. I work at a very stressful job, and I feel like the choices that I make within a team setting carry a high level of stress and liability. That stress and liability that could cause me to get fired. I take that stress home with me to my family and deal with that, and have to know that at any point in time I could be terminated for making a poor decision. I think that doing this job, that I feel like I get respected for the work that I do at the county. I feel like I get thanked for the work that I do at the county, but I would like to be seen as a whole person. And that's why I would really like for you guys to please consider adding sexual orientation and gender identity to the EEOC. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Huntsman. Yes, ma'am.
I'm Karen Olschlager. I'm the president of the League of Women Voters here in Asheville, Buncombe County. This is the third time in the past year that I have spoken to the commissioners and asked y'all to please update this employment non-discrimination policy to include the categories of sexual orientation and gender identity. So that is nothing new. Y'all know that I support that, and I know I called most of y'all before the meeting and sent out more emails reminding y'all. And again, third time I've spoken about it. So I would encourage y'all to vote in favor of that amendment, and I was very glad. You know, another thing that the League of Women Voters does care about is process. And I did call, I checked with the clerk to the board today, and I was under the understanding that there would be the opportunity for amendments. So I'm very glad, thank you for fitting those in there in that a tight window, but I'm glad we were able to get some out anyway. And the final thing, and hopefully this is no longer an issue because, as I said, those amendments were able to be presented, and of course I and the League support the League to update that employment non-discrimination policy to add those categories of sexual orientation and gender identity. I did just want to touch on one thing that was said at the beginning about the need to discuss the sexual orientation category in a closed session. I pulled up North Carolina statutes for meetings of public bodies, and it looks like it's statute 143, 318.11, that closed session, it says, general personnel policy issues may not be considered in a closed session. And that is a direct quote from the North Carolina ordinance. And I don't claim to have been able, I don't know as much about these rules and regulations, but given that there was some concern about process earlier, I would just love that we could double check and make sure that we are complying with the rules for these meetings and North Carolina state law. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Hunt. Yes, sir, Mr. Yelton. And please, everyone.
I'm not running for office, thank God. And you're going to do this merit, what do you call it, Wanda? It's merit, not merit pay, but merit what?
Merit principle. Just
merit principles. Okay, that's good, that's good, that's good. Because you see, I want to do three things. First off, I want to thank you, Holly, for saying what you think, although I disagree with you on some of those things. But I thank you for making this a public comment session. Now, yes, Mike Fryer's right. This whole agenda today is enough for about 10 meetings. Maybe this county's big enough to start having weekly meetings where you can handle an issue at a time and have public debate. Because as far as I checked, I'm the first person in Buncombe County that on public radio said, because a guy tried to set me up about gay and straight, and I said, look, I don't care if you want to make love to a duck. Just don't make me pay for your duck. Don't make me watch you make love to your duck, and don't make me forced to approve you making love to a duck. And what I like is the merit approach. And I don't like putting in there race, creed, color. We talk about, we want it to be gender. And we talk about somebody being black, we got to treat them a certain way. Somebody being gay, we got to treat them a certain way. No, we don't. We treat them based upon what they do. So we don't need to put those words in there, because all those words do is divide us and make us aware of the differences. So I don't want to see that added. I wanted to see that we do it. But I do want to see more respect for you, Holly, for pushing the issue for the public. I thank you for that. And I think if you all will think about what I've said, it has more merit than any person up here making an appeal that's politically might get him a few votes or not get him a few votes, or make somebody happy. I don't want to make anybody happy. I want to do what we do. Set a goal. If you do your job right and anybody discriminates against you, kick their butt out. I don't care who they are. And why I say that is because I worked for the county and I was doing my job and I got kicked out because I was doing it.
Thank you, Mr. Yelton. Yes, ma'am.
Good evening. My name is Reverend Jasmine Beach Ferrara. I am the Executive Director of the Campaign for Southern Equality based here in Asheville. I want to take a moment to thank all of you for your hard work and public service, and also take a moment just to reflect and pause that we live in a community where dialogue like this is possible, even when it's charged. Briefly, I want to explain why I support Commissioner Jones' amendment to the non-discrimination policy, including sexual orientation and gender identity. There are several reasons for this. The first of these is that it reflects the community that we live in. Buncombe County has the highest density of same-sex couples of any county in North Carolina. We know that there are many LGBT county employees currently on staff, and the question that you all face in a leadership position is how to best protect a community that we know to be vulnerable, not just to employment discrimination, but also to housing discrimination and to violence at disproportionate rates. Obviously, employment is our focus here, so let's keep the focus on that particular issue. There's a long tradition in our country and in our state of public leadership acting to protect classes of individuals who are vulnerable to discrimination. Ms. Green is correct in saying that federal law does not currently recognize LGBT people as a protected class. It is my prediction, along with yours, I believe that that will change on the federal level soon. But as we know, federal law is a floor, not a ceiling, that will guide the conduct of local municipalities. There are counties and cities across the state of North Carolina who, in recognition of the vulnerability of LGBT people in our state, have acted to include sexual orientation and gender identity in their employment policies. I think we should look to them for precedence, and also look to the fact that it has helped to create well-functioning, high-performing workforces. One thing that I've heard very clearly this evening is that there's a commitment from county staff and county leadership on creating an environment that's attracting highly qualified professionals and retaining those professionals in a talented workforce. Research around human resources shows pretty definitively, I think, that the best practices in employment is to have very strong non-discrimination policies that include sexual orientation and gender identity. What we see happening across our community, across our state, and across our country is that employers large and small, from small mom and pop businesses to large corporations to municipalities, are adopting such policies because they know this is the future of employment practices. I would urge you all to pass Commissioner Jones' amendment with an eye towards the future. And an eye also towards the human consequences of not doing so. As we all know all too well, the fact that there have not been formal grievances filed around sexual orientation and gender identity does not mean that discriminatory treatment and harassment are not occurring. More likely, it means that people do not feel safe to report those incidents. And the reason they do not feel safe, history has shown and research has shown, is because there are not policies on the books clearly enumerating that they will be protected from retaliatory termination as a result. So in closing, at 3 minutes and 4 seconds, I urge you to pass the amendment. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Burr. Yes, ma'am.
Thank you all very much for opening this up to public comment tonight. My name is Lindsay Simmerly. I live in Buncombe County. It was mentioned earlier that it's potentially not legal, and I just wanted to read the list of counties and cities in the state of North Carolina that currently have this exact language in their city and county policy. Those counties are Durham, Guilford, Mecklenburg, and Orange counties. in the cities of Asheville, Bessemer City, Boone, Carrboro, Charlotte, Chapel Hill, Durham, High Point, Raleigh, and Winston-Salem. Currently, all have these laws, some of which date back to the early 2000s. Unfortunately, here in Buncombe County, as Reverend Beach-Ferrara said a moment ago, the reason why you probably don't see these complaints filed is because right now it is perfectly legal to terminate an employee because they are gay. To just flat out say, you're being fired because you're gay, and that is a legal practice currently in Buncombe County. Tonight, we have a chance to right that wrong. There's overwhelming public support for these types of ordinances. The most recent public polling shows that 73% of Americans support stronger employment non-discrimination acts to protect gay, lesbian, transgendered, and bisexual employees. This cuts across age, gender, race, political affiliation, everything, 73%. And in tough budget times, it's really rare that you get to adopt a policy that improves the lives of our county's 1,400 employees, is incredibly popular, and costs no money. We all have that chance tonight, and I urge you to adopt Commissioner Jones's amendment and pass the employment non-discrimination policy this evening. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am.
Can I just make one response so that there's no confusion? We never legally said that you cannot do it or it's illegal. I think what we said is that there are potential legal consequences to doing this. That is what staff is saying. We're not saying that you can or cannot. That is something that is within your discretion, but there are potential consequences for doing that.
Thank you. Yes, ma'am. Reverend Landis. We've got
Reverend
two
Lisa
seats up
Landis.
here. If anybody, two more people want to come up and talk.
Thank you, Holly. You are what the people need to stand up to people who are bullies. So what if you had a month and a half? We, the people, did not have a month and a half to hear the bull that went on behind closed doors. And that is where we, the people, have a problem, because it seems like so many of these things are done behind closed doors and hidden. And I want to know, okay, the no lying, you know, disciplinary process, does that mean that those who violated the policy before it gets signed in will be prosecuted? You know, that's what I'd like to find out. And you know, the negative attitude against Holly by the people up here, I am so glad that there are some cameras here that are watching the facial expression of the people that are sitting up there. It's us, it's them, it's black, it's white, it's gay, it's straight. Dang it, when are you guys going to realize it's us? You know, it's we as a collective. If we do not come together, then we are never going to be happy. We are never going to solve these problems. One is always going to be better than another. You know, Holly, thank you for being that, I can't say, but thank you.
Thank you, Reverend Landis. Yes, sir.
Hey, my name is Aaron Sarver. I live in the city of Asheville. Thanks for allowing these comments. I can't really add much to pretty much everyone who's spoken very eloquently, passionately of why we should pass Commissioner Jones' amendment regarding adding sexual orientation and gender identity to the personnel policy. I think it should be clear that you can, under law in Buncombe County, be fired for simply being gay. I hope that doesn't happen, but we need to ensure legally that it
I've been here 24 years and it hasn't happened.
That's great. I hope we have 240 years and it doesn't happen in the future, but legally it can. That's the point. Thank you.
Thank you, Aaron. Yes, sir.
Okay, so I'm here as a citizen. This goes in my pocket. I have listened to, over the last few months, anxiety regarding pay. It's rampant in the county. It's really scaring people that work for county government. There's averages being used, and I met an awful lot of people don't make that average. You know, they read something in the paper, and every time we start, and you know, and all that. And I respect what you're doing. I respect your right to say what you said today. I also believe that what was presented to you is very consistent with major corporations in states and counties across this country. It is illegal to discriminate I have interviewed thousands of people in my 29-year career with the company that I'm with. And I cannot even ask you if you are married. I can only ask you if you are over the age of 18 in an interview. You are clearly, your hands are tied with legal things that you can and cannot do. You cannot write down, you cannot script everything that someone might possibly be against or be concerned about, because there will be a never-ending rule of law. Some things are common sense, I believe. I was taught by the good book, I refer to it as Holy Scripture, that you treat everyone as they should be treated. There is but one law that you have to look up, and that, I believe, is in the Word of God. And you can find it there if you seek it out. So I'm not here to preach. But I could, but I won't. I am here to say that I support what was presented. It is in accordance with what the company that I've been with for a long time that they do. There's a couple of things in there that I thought was made a little over the top. I mean, that's the first time I'd heard where you could actually sell your time off, which I thought was kind of interesting, that you could do that. So there's some differences in there, but I think it's fair. I think that you can't, if someone fires you, see, I'm part of a discriminated class in this country, Christian people. I'm discriminated against all the time. It bothers me in the county sometimes the way I'm discriminated as a person. I am discriminated against. But I have someone that I can rely on, someone I can go to. I don't have to go and have somebody write a law to protect me because it's out there. People can't discriminate against me because of that. And so I support, because it will stop the anxiety. Though you may not agree with everything, though I may not agree with everything you say, once you put the policy in place, it will stop a lot of the anxiety out there right now.
Mr. Belcher, thank you, sir. Yes, ma'am.
My name is Ashley Arrington. I live in Oakley. I stand as a partner of one of your employees who, while there may not have been any reported incidents of intimidation, harassment, discrimination against your gay and transgendered employees, I can tell you that my partner and I have spent hours discussing whether or not she would even speak in front of you for fear of retaliation. So let that kind of weigh for a minute. That one of your employees who's been here almost 10 years didn't feel comfortable enough to tell you what she thought. If you can't put in protections for your employees, how do the people you serve feel? If you think that you're not serving gay, lesbian, transgender, queer, whatever you want to call them, you're wrong. You are. And if you think that your staff aren't discriminating against them, you're also wrong. I hear it. I see it. My partner's never told me anything one way or the other. We don't discuss those kinds of things at our house. But I have friends who have services from you guys who are treated differently as soon as it comes out that they're gay. They won't tell you. They won't turn it in to the county because they're afraid it's going to make their case worse. So it is happening, whether you want to admit it is or not. It is happening. As far as federal and state level go, I'm sure some of you are, maybe some of you are not familiar with a recent EEOC ruling, Macy versus Holder, which is a federal case surrounding transgender discrimination. And it was found that that discrimination is illegal under Title VII of the Civil Rights Act. We're talking about potential legal consequences if you do this. You got potential legal consequences if you don't. Last thing I would add is that you need to take a serious look at your policy. We protect every single person, white, black, male, female, Baptist, Muslim, handicapped, not, except for gays, lesbians, transgendered, queer identified.
Thank you, Ms. Aaron.
I am Reverend Lisa Landis, and I, being a reverend, am protected by my First Amendment right that I can pray to whatever God or whatever goddess that I choose. And I also believe that it's supposed to be a separation of church and state. So those who have a problem with people who are different, who damn people who are different, I don't think that you should be serving in that position, because that is not a separation of church and state. That is your own personal opinions and not being a spokesperson for the people. We had a bunch of people who were up here saying, hey, we agree with this, we want this in, but yet it was discussed behind closed doors what the implementation is if I vote for, and it's like, well, wait a minute, I wanted to know what the ramifications are. You know, I would like to have heard what would happen if you voted this way or that way. You know, I also found out recently that bunco, that term, came from Buncombe County. I found that was kind of interesting, because it sounds like this has been a tradition. You know, there's been a lot of things that have been hidden, that have been covered up. And I've been asking repeatedly for an itemized budget, or even last year's budget of things, you know, where was the money spent. So why can't we not put that up on the internet, not just for me, but for the public? You know, there's a whole lot of hiding going on, as has been discussed. And then we'll get into the $8 million for more beer. Oh my God. You know, and then it's like 75 to 80% of the people who are arrested are under the influence of drugs and alcohol. When are we going to address the fact that the criminal justice system is profiting on the disease and decay in society? And as long as, you know, you don't do anything, well, then that must mean, what does that say? If you don't disagree, you agree? So you're profiting on the disease of alcoholism, and by profiting, you're not even understanding what the disease of alcoholism is. It's not that they are bad people, they are sick people. The people that you put in hospitals. Why do we not have treatment facilities for people who have a disease, a fatal disease? You know, the evidence room. The audit. It's like county, city, same MO. Well, who had the freaking key? You know, that's what I want to know. Who had the key 24/7? That ought to weed them out pretty good. You know, the merit principle, you know, the ability to do the job. Yeah. The ability to do the job. If we could only get paid for doing the job.
Thank you, Reverend Landis. Is there any other public comment tonight? Mr. Fryer?
Move we adjourn.
I think Mr. Fryer raised his hand earlier.
Go and start my time over here. What I've given you is another request. Request for documents listed below. I will generate, sent, received, forward, reviewed, accessed during the otherwise consent and time period of June 30th through August the 6th, which is today or yesterday. Yesterday. Don't have enough time to go through the whole thing. I've got copies in here, but what it basically is I've sat and I go home and I watch these commissioner meetings. Everybody's put their laptops down except Kay Ray now. They're furnished. This lady sets them up. She's got one. But all I see is people on their iPads. I watched one on $137 million budget say aye and poking on their iPad. You know, I want to see what's on them. You know, there's more here. Basically, I want the hours in the meeting, in the county commission, May 1st, May 15th, June 5th, and June 19th. That's within the hours of the meeting, 1 hour before and 1 hour after, of anybody's iPads or any communication that belongs to the county. this is a public request. And in this, you know, these can be washed, cleaned. I would prefer in this letter it asked that they be turned over to, it's not Mr. Frudenat, it's Mr. Euler, so that nobody can clean them. So hopefully I'm within my bounds to do that. But I do have copies if the press wants it. So, but I don't think it's fair to watch people. I don't know if they're playing games. I don't know if they're talking to other people, because, you know, another thing that I forgot to add to it, if you wouldn't mind adding to my request, is I know these iPads are like a cell phone. You buy gigs per month. I would like to see how many people go over their gigs per month that the county's having to pay for. That's the one thing that I forgot to get on this copy. But in appreciation of that, it's kind of like a gun. I can't walk in with one. And that's kind of like a gun. It ought to be left in the car. You come in and do your job with the computer that has the agenda on it. I'm sure somebody here, if you had a problem with a child, grandchild, wife or something, can get a hold of you like the old days. Somebody here can be the contact person for that. But I feel like that ought to be not be used any longer. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Fryer. Any other public comment tonight?
Move to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn, second by Commissioner Peterson, second by Vice Chair Stanley. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye. Aye. We are adjourned.
Well, do you, I don't even know how to do it, frankly, but if there's something you want to do specifically, the other way.
No worries.
So, yeah, I mean, I just want to tell you something. I got to tell you two things. I want to tell you two things. One is, well, I've got a new phone, so that's when I do. So I'm not. It's not county media. Just